Okay. Oh, wow. You could tell when you can start really hearing yourself. So, good morning. How are you all doing? Good. Again, if you're coming in, make sure you have one of these. I could bring you some. You shy people, I tell you. There's that, and you've got one or not. There you go. Okay, well, thank you for coming early, and maybe this is the regular crowd for Sunday school time. But again, I'm going to be talking about stewardship this morning, and I believe in stewardship. My name's Philip Marley. I basically have been encouraging generosity since the latter 80s. And I really enjoy it because I think, again, that is an act of worship, not only while we're alive, but you're going to see, hey, you have this great opportunity, upon your passing to say, I want to also bless these ministries. And again, if you don't make that plan, then it's probably not going to happen. So we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to have some commonly asked questions at the end. But again, if something is unclear, you can raise your hand, you can interrupt, and I can answer that, or you can just remember it. I'm going to try to I usually spend an hour on a presentation, but I will be able to condense it, so I might go a little fast in some areas. But again, if I go too fast somewhere, then slow me down. And again, during worship, I must talk about Central Christian College of the Bible, where, again, I've been there since 1993. I did take a couple other stints at some other ministries, like Show Me Christian Youth Home and some others, but I seem to keep coming back. So there's a nice informational kind of brochure that really tells much more than what time I have today anyway. But it's things are really, really popping at the school. Like I said, I've been there for about 25 years, and I'm just amazed of what God's doing. So, and we could talk about that more later. So we're talking about estate planning, and I'm going to start off with, and I have to turn it on. It will work. Again, financial planning ministry. I work there part-time. It's a ministry, 501c3 ministry, but I also work part-time at Central Christian College of the Bible. So I kind of split my time, and my calendar always looks really weird because I have everything color-coded, so I don't schedule myself. But financial planning ministry next year will celebrate its 40th year. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that we've been doing this, for all that time period. And you can see, there's $1.7 billion dollars for ministries, and a lot of them churches that will be realized someday. When an air conditioner goes out on a church here, it costs more than a home, air conditioner. An expansion, parking lot, all this. And again, every place where I go to a presentation, there's usually, one or more gifts set aside saying, hey, someday when I pass, I want it to go here where I'm fed. So enough said there. So this, I normally don't put these pictures in, but this just happened over the weekend. I live very close, half a mile from Amish. There's like over 1,000 Amish, and we have some good friends that just live just down the road, family of 7. And that's Moe's. You don't see them too well because I was taking a picture from far away. They don't like their pictures taken, but I sneak this one in. So I have some bottomland, and twice now I've harvested some walnut. And so this machine, he's able to slice them like a loaf of bread. And I have slabs and everything else, and it's just fun to see the harvesting of wood. Well, in the process, I just went down there with my 4-wheel drive truck, and there's just no low area that's always kind of swampy underneath the grass. Well, I got stuck. 4-wheel drive truck. So this is amazing. Probably none of you have ever been pulled out by a Belgian horse, right? So Eli came down, and it was like 8 o'clock at night. I would have got a little video or a picture or something, but I didn't get a chance. These horses are gigantic. If you've seen a Clydesdale horse, they're related to that. They just don't have the furry feet, basically. So 2 Belgians all hooked up on the hooks of the front of my truck, and poof, they got me right out of there. Probably better than a 4-wheel drive truck. So pretty amazing. Kind of weird that I started off with that, but that tells you a little bit about me, and that I was dumb to get stuck. And then 2, I had the great opportunity to see these big Belgians with my headlights on, going out. So luckily they didn't have to relieve themselves. So I would have drove over it. It wouldn't have got on the truck. So you have some note-taking sheets in front of you. If you don't, there's some extras on some chairs. I tried to space them out. Again, if you can just take some notes throughout this process, you're going to find out, you're going to learn something. I can almost guarantee that. And then it's something that you can share with others who couldn't be here, this morning. So let's start off. We're going to talk about probate. And a lot of us are familiar with probate. We've heard the word at least. And the first thing we think of is, oh, that's expensive. There's a lot of taxes, etc. I'm going to unpack what probate, what it does or can do to a family. But my question is, will you have to endure probate? Of course, you won't, because let's be real here. You're going to be dead. It's those you leave behind will have to deal possibly with probate. Okay? And probate in itself is not 100% negative, because if we didn't have probate in this country, we'd have a lot of mess, wouldn't we? Where does this stuff go? Who takes care of the kids, etc. So probate in itself is not, super evil, but we want to try to avoid it if we can. So what about probate? It doesn't matter if you live in a mansion or a tiny house, okay? I got back from Haiti about 2.5 months ago, and if I showed that top picture to them, they'd say that's where the president lives, or the governor. I mean, that's unattainable. And here in this auditorium, you might maybe be, down on life or maybe unemployed and I'm sorry for that, but still think of this. If you had hot water, if you have a refrigerator and many, many other things, you're richer than 85% of the world. I mean, it's amazing. Again, Haiti, it's just, I call it a fourth world country. So if you ever have an opportunity to get a group up or just, go as a couple, go to Haiti and your life will be changed forever. And it doesn't matter if you own a red car or a green car. Now I see some smiles. There's a difference there. How many of you ever drove or owned a Ford Pinto? Okay, good. Me too. What color was yours? Blue, okay. Well, it wasn't this nice green, it was lima bean green. And so it's called the lima bean. But that was the Ford Fusion and, whatever of this day. It got me around, but it was no, Porsche or Lamborghini or whatever. So, and it doesn't matter if you own 10,000 acres or just have a garden out back. You know why? You can't take it with you. I didn't take this picture, but someone did. So it's an actual hearse carrying a U-Haul trailer, and I'm going to come back to that. But again, we think, oh, all my stuff. Well, first of all, with a stewardship principle, you don't own anything. God has lent it to you as a steward during your life. So we don't own anything, literally, but we think we could take it with us. But we can't. Okay. So now let's get to those notes. That's just a little intro. There's 3 options when planning your estate. And there's only 3, and you're going to find out why. Because the first one is having no plan whatsoever. No plan. It's called intestate succession. That's the only legal term you're going to hear today, because I am not an attorney. Intestate succession. But that means you have passed without any plan whatsoever. And that's where a probate court is there to assist that family. And it doesn't matter if you, ended the game of life, I call it, with $1,000, or if you're, Donald Trump. Doesn't matter, because probate court is exactly the same for everyone, the same procedure, okay? So 61% of Americans fall within this category. And I never asked for a show of hands, but I would imagine most of you fall within this category, which is fine, because you're going to see, hey, some options to plan better if you so want to. The next level, I guess I would say, or the next option is a last will and testament. And a lot of people are familiar with this. About 30-some% of Americans have a last will and testament. You might have one, which again is better than not having a plan. I refer to a last will and testament like a paper roadmap. Some of us remember what those were like, right? It was an accordion, and you had to get it out, and you couldn't get it in front of the driver, because then he couldn't see or she couldn't see. And then you had to have a degree to put it all back together. But having a last will and testament is like a roadmap for the attorneys and for probate court to say, oh, this is what people wanted, to care for the kids, where things were supposed to go, etc. Again, I'm not going to go along with, but last will and testaments are witnessed. Many are outdated. I have people come up to me and say, I can't even find it. But then these can be very contestable, because sometimes they'll say, who are the witnesses? Are they still alive? Then they ask, is this their actual last will and testament? I can't remember if I signed something last week. So that could be an issue. The third option is a trust, and specifically a revocable living trust. Okay, whenever we hear the word trust, we kind of get this bad feeling because you think, okay, I've always been told don't put the money away in a trust because you can never touch it again. Those are irrevocable type trusts. And a lot of wealthy do that to try to save on taxes and estate tax, all this other stuff. Some individuals, Christians, consider an irrevocable charitable trust or an annuity. Central Christian College of the Bible, we have those, and if you're older, then you get a really good interest rate and you get tax-free income. So if you're ever interested in that, or if you think your parents or grandparents might be interested in that, I could talk to them about that later. But we're specifically talking about the revocable living trust. My definition, if I say it enough, it'll be in Webster's dictionary someday. A revocable living trust is a last will and testament on steroids. I mean, that to me is a simple definition of what a revocable living trust is. So think of your estate like a pie. Okay, I'm trying to get you hungry here. So think of pie, and regardless, of who gets that slice of pie, you get to choose. Okay, who's going to eat your pie, because you're not going to eat it. Which of these plans, though, do you think would be subject to probate? And I pretty much answered those for you. The first two are subject to probate because there's some issues. Probate court has to affirm, they have to confirm, they have to make sure that everything is done according to your wishes, or if you didn't have wishes, then they set your wishes for you. That's general. What about the last one? And again, I'm talking about a revocable living trust, no probate. Okay, so again, your family, your friends, whoever you leave behind can avoid probate. So the next issue, sometimes people will say, well, I'm a simple Missourian, or I go to Kansas and Arkansas a lot, and Iowa. I don't have much. I don't need a living trust. I've been told, I'm not a millionaire, so I don't need a living trust. Well, you'll see the probate thresholds in each state is a little bit different. In Missouri, it's $40,000. Now again, these are assets that are not have a beneficiary or a POD, pay on death, or things like that. But it's not hard to have $40,000 worth of assets. So probate can be triggered on that. So if you ever decide to retire and you decide to go, I'm not going to have a plan. My parents had to go through probate and my grandparents had to go through probate. Well, don't move to Georgia. Because if you have $1, literally, your estate will go through probate. I guess the state of Georgia wants everyone to go through probate. So don't move there if you're going to retire and you have no plan. So why do we want to avoid probate? Well, the first one is it's expensive. Okay, it's expensive. These are not taxes. These are probate fees that go to attorneys and go to probate court. I use quick examples of my mom who died in 2013. She died without any plan. So $55,000 had to go through probate. At the end of the process, I wrote a check for $4,800, $4,200 of it went to the attorney, and $600 went to probate court. So just start doing the math in your head. Those percentages are kind of federal standards that attorneys and probate court can charge. It's very real. So you don't have to have a large estate to basically your estate would be given away, $16,000 or $60,000 or whatever else. And I always ask people, if you had the choice and you have to choose between one or the other, and one choice is, let's all be millionaires in here, and it's not hard to be a millionaire anymore. I could give that $60,000 over here to ministries, or I could give this $60,000 to the legal system, and my kids or my heirs are going to get the same amount. I think if I asked everyone in here, if you had to choose one or the other, you would probably say, well, I want to bless ministries. High Hill Christian Camp, my kids went there and they changed their lives, Central Christian College of the Bible, my local church, etc. So just think of those things. And again, a lot of times it's 5 to 6% of your estate. But again, if your estate had to go through probate, the kids or your heirs would still get only about 95%. The other thing is probate takes time. My mom's estate in Chillicothe, Missouri was not contested. It was only my brother and myself. And it took 16 months. It was, 16 months that I had to twiddle my fingers and kind of wait for the process. So the average is 9 months to 2 years, and it could go much longer than that. The estate assets can be frozen. Again, when my mom's house sold, it had to go into an estate account at the bank, and I couldn't touch it. But just think, you might have some relatives that are living month to month, And if they have to keep the utilities up at the house, pay for realtor fees, all this other stuff, they might be in a hardship. So that's not as big issue, but that is a negative of having to go through probate. And the other thing is that anything that goes through probate court is public knowledge. Anyone could go to the county recorder's office and look at whatever records there are from your estate. I put some famous people up on the screen. If you ever get tired or bored, you could go online and say the rich and famous estate planning blunders. These are people that had tons of money. Aretha Franklin, the music singer Prince, who died 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe 5 years ago. $340 million, and he had all these people around him. He could have easily had a plan set, but he didn't. $120 million is going to be going back to the government just in taxes alone, which is great. that actually operates our economy for a minute, whatever. But there's already been $60 million expended already on probate fees, and it's just in the process. So it's a crazy thing. So we have a choice. I guess that one's fainter than that one. So you can read the red. So you could say, I'm okay not doing anything right now, or I want a last will and testament. That's what I've got, and I'm good with that. Probate, could be in the future of that estate, in your things. Or tell me more about a living trust will so that probate can be avoided by those I leave behind. So the next page, I'm going to, again, I hope I don't go too fast, but I'm kind of recouping here. Trust, avoid probate. Revocable living trusts that are properly prepared, and you have them signed and notarized, and you have your assets connected to it. You follow me? So you just don't get the paperwork and sit it on your desk like Joe Robbie did. He owned the Miami Dolphins, and he died. He had a nice living trust on his desk, but he never had the time to sign it and get it notarized and connect things to it. Well, the Robbie family lost the team, they lost the stadium, just all that, because he just simply didn't get through with it. So it's less expensive for those you leave behind, your heirs, because again, remember that 6 to 8% that could just go out the window just to pay attorney's fees and probate cost fees. It eliminates those lengthy delays. There's a person called a successor trustee that you're going to assign. You're going to say, here's the person, and usually you have a list of them, here's the persons, if that person can't do it, that I trust that will succeed me. And they basically will manage that estate to, either liquidate things, get things where they need to go. But in essence, they're honoring your legacy wishes. This is what I wanted. I wanted my kids to get this, or this specific item, or I wanted to, make this gift to ministry. And that's what they do. But that successor trustee, all he or she needs is a copy of your death certificate, and your revocable living trust, and they could go to work. So within a couple weeks, they could actually start connecting with the banks, connecting with life insurance, putting the house up for sale, selling the house, or whatever else. It will preserve your privacy, which I've already mentioned. This is not a recorded document. So the only people that knows what you had and who got what you had would be you, your successor trustee, and any beneficiaries. No one else has to know. So again, for us, in Missouri, let's say you have a large gun collection or coins or things like that. Do you really want that listed? And then I see a lot of parents sometimes will have, millions of dollars maybe in life insurance, so their kids are getting a lot of money. So that's stuff that you really don't want to kind of have out there. Again, a revocable living trust is just that. It's a revocable living trust. You can modify it, you can change it, you can even cancel it if you wanted to, which, there's very little reasons why you'd ever want to cancel one, maybe through a divorce and you wanted to start, a new revocable living trust. So keep that in mind. It will avoid the problem of joint ownership. And I see this, there's usually someone, and I never ask for questions or hands, in the crowd that have been involved with joint ownership. Quick example, grandfather who bought a piece of land for $100, and he was getting older, and he says, I'm going to put granddaughter also on this deed, which that's a joint owner, okay? Because when I die, I don't want it to go through probate, okay? So far it's working. He dies, and so now granddaughter, she owned 50%, now she owns all of it, and she checks, and it's worth $1,100. You know, she lives in New York City, and she says, you know, that's like a half of my rent payment for a month. And so she says, I'm going to sell this thing. But lo and behold, because she only owed 50% at the original cost, you know, the purchase price of $100, she'll have to pay capital gains on 50% of every acre she sells. So that's where joint ownership is a problem for the next generation. Also, liability. You know, just think of that. If you had another joint owner, they own 50%. And so in a lawsuit, 50% of your house or your property could be used to pay for that verdict. It avoids court-imposed guardianship for minor children. Again, if you don't have a plan, the court is going to decide who's best to raise your kids. If you have an idea, then you're able to put that in there and say, you know, I want his or her older daughter, sister, a sibling to do this. Or, you know, here's some good friends within the church. When I'm finding that more and more. You know, it used to be the parents have to raise, you know, my kids. If I die, then the parents have to do it. Anymore, it's you know, people who have ministry-minded people, and they ask sometimes friends within their, you know, that have children about the same age, saying, will you raise so-and-so for us if, you know, we were to pass, and et cetera. You can name your own conservator, and that's the person that's like a healthcare agent, because we don't, you know, our bodies don't operate the same way all our lives. We might get to a stage of dementia, Alzheimer's, we might be in a coma, and so this is your opportunity to have that medical, you know, your end-of-life decisions honored. You make the decision while you're alive, and then a child or a parent or, you know, a friend could even just take your document. They're not making the decision if you choose to be taken off life support. So again, for someone in your family or even a friend, it makes it that much lighter on their hearts. They're not signing and saying, this is my decision. They're basically taking that document. So an excellent part of the revocable living trust. You know, whenever you get a revocable living trust, you get all these other documents that join up with the trust document. Quick distribution of assets. Like I said, your successor trustee trust and your death certificate, and they could go to work. They could be fulfilling your legacy plan and getting it handled very quickly. This one here is if you're, I'm trying to think of the word, overly blessed. You know, we're all blessed, remember? We all are blessed in the United States, but if you're overly blessed, you're going to see that the federal estate tax, and I'm going to go on to the next slide, it has grown drastically. Okay, so back in the 90s and even 2000, some of us probably in here, we remember when, you know, someone who had a lot of farmland, they passed away, and part of the farm had to be sold just to pay the taxes. I remember that around Chillicothe, Missouri, a lot of farmland around there. So Congress said, okay, let's keep ratcheting this up, and it's 11.7 now, and if you're married, you could pass 23 million. Okay, so in essence, that's a great advantage. For some people that might be close to the 10 million, you know, 11 million mark. They might say, well, I need to set up this AB trust. So again, there's no taxes. It's 40% on every dollar over that amount. So again, this doesn't affect a lot of us, but it does affect, you know, people that I've talked to, you know. So let's talk about what is this living trust like. Okay, and I use this storage tote for my example. So I'm going to interchange the word trust and tote for the next few slides. But the reason we have totes are what? Put things in. Yeah, that's, and to protect things, you know, from water or bugs or, you know, and it also helps to organize things. You know, you can have everything kind of orderly in that tote. So think of a revocable living trust as this. It's your opportunity to go ahead and have this tote, and you can have everything that God has blessed you with really nice and organized and protected and safe. Okay, so what's the first thing you do? Well, you're going to name yourself, or if you're married, yourselves as the trustees. So an example is, you know, the tote that I bought, you know, and I didn't have to buy it because I have a financial planning ministry tote. My wife and I, with a permanent marker, we wrote on it, the Marley Family Living Trust, Philip R. Marley, Teresa L. Marley, trustees. And it's in permanent ink because that tote, that revocable living trust will never be anyone else's. It won't be our kids. It won't be even our successor trustees. It's always going to be our tote while we're alive, and then that period of time while we're dead, and it's being, you know, fulfilled, that the trust language, your legacy plan. Then you're going to name a successor trustee. Now this is still in ink, but it's not, quote, kind of in permanent ink, because it's in your legacy plan. Because you can always amend your trust and choose another successor trustee. Maybe it's an older brother and he has passed, or maybe it's someone who's now on the mission field or is having troubles, or whatever. And so you could just say, okay, I'd like to have this person now become my successor trustee. Same thing with guardians and with your conservator. These are changes within your trust. Whenever you buy and sell something, because this is always a question, you don't have to amend your trust because you're the trustee. You own that tote, remember? So you can put things in, you can take things out, and that's not an amendment. It's really easy. And in Missouri, we call it easy peasy, so it's really easy to do. So you will name that conservator, that healthcare agent, because we don't live forever, and sometimes we have our end of life that's not as what we planned it to be. So it's good to have a person that can serve in this role and basically take our wishes to whatever hospital, nursing home, or whatever that they need to do. You will name a guardian for your minor children if you have minor children at home. And some of us in this room, we might have grandchildren. And let's be honest here, how many of you love your grandchildren more than you ever loved your children? Come on, we're in church. Man, okay, finally, okay. I mean, come on, that's just the way it is. That's the only reason you have children, is get those grandchildren someday. So, but again, if you don't make that plan, again, the court system is going to make that decision for you. Then you're going to name the persons and the charities that are going to get the stuff that God's blessed you with. You can't take it with you. Remember that hearse and that U-Haul trailer? Your successor trustee, what he or she will do is get a copy of your living trust, your death certificates. Then they're going to go to the U-Haul trailer lot, and they're going to rent whatever size they need. And unfortunately in America, they're going to get the biggest rig they can find probably, right? And so they're going to get this U-Haul trailer, and then they're going to look at this list and say, okay, this is where I need to deliver this stuff. I need to sell these things. I need to get these things. They'll pull right up here and they'll knock on the door and they'll say, hey, Joe, I've got, a gift from this family that wanted to leave a gift to the church, Okay, and then they might be driving down the road to, Central Christian College of the Bible, or just real close to Hi-Ho Camp, or you get the idea. So there's gifts that are going to be made out of that estate. Then they're going to say, oh, here's all these kids, and I got to deliver these things to the kids. Then that successor trustee cannot return that U-Haul trailer with anything in it. It has to be clean, or you get fined or whatever else. So in essence, that's what your successor trustee will do. They're going to basically take those things and deliver those things, and then do the last year's taxes for your estate, and then they're done with their job. So it's still not just a complete cakewalk, but it's not like an executor. I've always heard it said, if you really don't like someone, ask them to be your executor. I'm just saying. It's because it's a lot of work to go through the probate court system and everything else. You're going to retitle your assets into the name of the living trust. Okay, not everything, but like a deed, your house. My house used to be owned by myself and my wife, our names, but now it's owned by our names as trustees and the Marley Family Living Trust. So when the trustees have passed, when Teresa and I are gone, the revocable living trust still owns our house. And so the successor trustee has that legal ability to come in, not have to hire an attorney or anything else. He or she can just sell that house or give that house to, whatever our wishes were, they have that legal ability to do it. They don't have it while we're still alive, but they have it upon our passing. So it's a great opportunity. And you can see deeds to house or real estate, anything to do with savings and investments, how you connect it is through a beneficiary. Again, you keep your spouse as primary, but now not having to worry if you have 3 kids or 4 kids and you have their names listed as contingent or secondary beneficiaries, and now you have grandchildren, and what if one of my kids were to pass? I mean, you have all these things throughout life. Now you can name your trust as the second in line, your contingent or your secondary beneficiary, and the trust really becomes your master plan. If my first child dies, well, I want his share to go to his kids, or, I want it to be dispersed amongst the other kids, or, there's all sorts of plans in which you get to choose. And so that's an advantage. Anything that's titled in Missouri, we have the great opportunity to use a TOD, title on death, on your car, truck titles, boats, etc. In Illinois, they can't. They have to do something else, and so it's good. And again, there's like 19 states that you're able to do that in. Little factoid. See, you learned something today. So is this a new idea? No, it's not a new idea. The ancient Romans had living trust. Patrick Henry, one of the fathers of our country, was the first recorded, known revocable living trust. We all know his quote, give me liberty, give me a living trust, or give me death. Remember that? Okay. They have misquoted it. Does the transfer process of property into my trust affect my property taxes? No, it doesn't. It's called a zero sale transfer. If you're taking note, zero sale transfer. So you just have to re-record that property, but again, there's no difference in your taxes. I know, you still have to pay taxes, I'm sorry, but it doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. May you include the distribution of personal items within your trust? And the answer is yes. And I always have a really neat story here, but again, there might be an item that is special to someone. The wedding ring goes here, the gun goes here, etc. And like I said, I wish I could go longer on that one, but you can just get the idea. It might be something that doesn't have really any value, but again, that grandchild or that niece and nephew, they always played with it. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, and you just wrote that in there, and it means a lot to them, when they get older. Is it necessary for financial planning ministry to know the total value of my estate? Again, it's all confidential, but this is like one of the workbooks. This is the old paper type workbooks, but it's like a Dave Ramsey approach. You kind of take an account of all your flocks and herds. How many of you have flocks and herds right now? See, we don't anymore. My Amish neighbors do. But in essence, all your stuff, you start putting in bank account and everything else. It's all confidential, but it allows you to get to that bottom line saying, I didn't know I was worth so much. I have so many people say, this is amazing, and it's a great exercise. So it helps you to look at this and say, oh, this is what the kids are going to get someday. And then you can also say, wow, I'm a millionaire. 5% is $50,000. I could have never done that while I was alive, giving $50,000 to a ministry or ministries. But now I can, because it's in my estate. My kids are going to get the same amount. So it's really a neat exercise for you to do. May you make changes to your trust after it's notarized? I've already answered that. It's called an amendment. It's a change. It's a modification. So you can always amend your trust all throughout life. Does it make sense for a single person? And the answer is yes, because my mom, she was divorced and it was just her. So upon her passing, if she had a plan, a successor trustee, then that person could have gone through the process without having to go through probate. And that was me. I was her personal representative. Is it practical for smaller estates? The answer is yes again. My mom's estate, $55,000, had to go through a probate process, cost $4,800, took 16 months. So yes, it's practical even for smaller estates. Does a living trust avoid probate on out-of-state property? Now we're close to the Illinois line. If you have property in different states, then those you leave behind will probably have to go through probate in each individual state, because each state has different thresholds, they have different rules with probate, etc. They have the federal probate law, then each state's kind of added to it, and it's just crazy. Oh, 9, does the living trust restrict my rights to my property? Pretty much answer that question, right? It's my. No, it's still your stuff that God has blessed you with. So in essence, you have no restrictions. You could sell, you can buy, you can move things in and out of the tote. Remember that? So no restrictions. It's not like an irrevocable type trust. So I hope you'll want to do the next step. You need something. And you might be happy where you're at. But again, my encouragement is if you're in the 61%, consider moving out of that, because it's going to make life that much easier for those you leave behind. And again, you'll be able to say, this is where I want my stuff to go, and this is how I can bless ministry in the process. Various options in front of you. We live in a world of TurboTax. You can say, well, I'm just going to go to LegalZoom and do it on my own. That's fine. You have options in front of you. But again, every time you maybe need to change that, you might have to pay a fee. I don't know. I really haven't been on LegalZoom.com. Local professionals, we are part of the Christian Legal Society, Financial Planning Ministry. And if you want to work with someone right here, in Warrenton or, in the St. Louis area, we can give you some recommendations saying, here's someone, to go to. I always tell people, don't go to an attorney that, friend or not a friend, and they've never done a revocable living trust. Oh, I do trust. This is probably about the same thing. I could put this together for you. You don't want that. You want to make sure it's done properly. You know, every attorney, when they go and go through law school and pass the bar, they all have a required class, and that's probate law, you know, last will and testaments, et cetera. That's a staple. But then, you know, attorneys will say, I want to specialize in estate planning, international law, you know, tax law, whatever. And so you want someone who has done some research. Then financial planning ministry. I've told you this is all we've done since, you know, the early 80s. We just prepare, you know, legal documents, you know, revocable living trusts, power of attorneys, the healthcare directives. We'll put together grant deeds of your property so you can actually re-record it, etc. And that's all we do. We don't do any other, like LLC, of course, family court, any of that. That's just not what we do. We prepare your legal documents. And this gives you that opportunity. All we ask is for you to prayerfully consider a charitable gift to ministry. Okay, and really, I get to talk to the best people. I talk to Christians. You know, after this presentation, I'm not going to go down to the local library and offer this, just because I have nothing to sell, and we don't try to say, okay, there's a fee here or whatever else. We've never had a fee since we've started, you know, 39 years ago. We've never sold anything. So again, some people say, well, there's got to be a trick. Well, just take my word for it. All we say is, please consider, you know, a ministry gift. And Central Christian College of the Bible is a partner with Financial Planning Ministry. In fact, St. Louis Christian College is also, and also CIY down in southern Missouri. So those are the three Missouri ministries that partner with FPM to make this happen, you know, to make this happen to you, so that in essence there's no cost to you. There's over 100 ministries throughout the nation, coast to coast, which is really exciting. So you're going to have an opportunity to sign up for an appointment. Okay, so, and I can't remember, I think the appointments are going to be through a telephone, I'm pretty sure. Sometimes I'll return in person, and I still might, but I do a lot of telephone reviews, because you're going to see everything's electronic. There's a Salesforce called FormStack. We have a very secure, you know, system in which you can fill all the information out, and then you send it to me electronically, and it's all secure. Then it comes into my, you know, FormStack box, and only I can see it, and I can review it, and then we talk on the phone. It really works seamlessly. I didn't like doing it at first, but I thought, this is the way to go, because people don't have to leave their home. You know, I hear dogs barking in the background. I hear kids in the background, and so you didn't have to pack everyone else and drive all the way to the church to meet with me or whatever. But the event code is Warrenton, and then the day is May 13th. Now, whenever I go and offer a day of appointments, some people might say, well, that doesn't work for me. You know, I've pretty much blocked out the day. If it doesn't, then let me know. And Kendall, I forgot something. I usually have sign-up pages. So we need your email. We will not sell it. We will not give it to anyone else. Is there a tablet or paper? And I'm so sorry, I should have said this before. Okay, we got one up here, Kendall. Do you mind just passing that around? All I need, if you print legibly, if you're a couple, just write the one, your name and your email. That's all we need. Because the office will send you an email tomorrow just saying, hey, thanks for attending, and you know, here is your opportunity. Because then you're going to have a button on that email to click to make an appointment, and then you'll get the actual planning guide link after you make an appointment. Even if you, yeah, and if you can't make the 13th, talk with me, and I could give you maybe some other days where I'm doing some appointments for some other ministries. Name and email. Yeah, name and email, please. Again, will not be given to anyone else. Only the office will have it, and they'll just use it once. You won't be getting a lot of emails, you know, from Central. So sorry, I usually have the sign-up pages, but I didn't bring them. So how do you do this? Some people want to do it even before they leave the presentation. You don't have to, but there's some techies out there, you know, and so they'll say, I want to do it right now. I want the first appointment. So in essence, you would go to fpm.org, and then you would click on the right hand says schedule an appointment. It's that simple. Then you're going to type in your code, Warrenton, into this spot right here. Then the next thing will show is this, and it will be the appointment times. And so then you'll click a time, and then immediately you'll be getting that email back that says, hey, you're signed up to meet with Phil at this time on this day. And it's that simple. Then you're going to get reminder emails. You will get those if you make an appointment so you don't forget it. And even the day of, I think you get a text. You know, I mean, in essence, I forget things, and so that's really handy. So this is what the email will look like after you sign up for an appointment. There's that link. It's kind of hard to see. Maybe not. Let's see. Right there. When you click on that, then that's when this form stack, electronic file, this system that you just type in your information. This is not a real good view of it, but you could see some examples of the pages that you do. You can do this in 30 minutes. Now, if you don't have email, if you don't feel comfortable doing this online, like I said, I do have some planning guides that are printed. If you do that, though, then it's no extra steps. You either have to mail it, or you could scan it and send it to me. And you don't have to meet with me. You don't have to have an appointment. If you look through this thing and you fill it out and you say, hey, I'm good to go, you could send it straight into the office. But almost everyone I talk to always have a question, and that's what I'm there for, to answer questions. And then I might have a question saying, well, what did you mean here? So my job is to make sure that it's complete when the office gets it, so then they could start creating your legal documents. So that's my job. And then, of course, also to make these presentations. Wow, I've done it in pretty good time. I'm going to let you have your donut time, but not yet. So questions?